Hey, folks, welcome to Affiliate Nerd Out. I am your nerd Dustin House. Spreading that good word about affiliate marketing. You're going to find me here every Thursday at noon Pacific time on LinkedIn Live. So put it on the calendar and hang out with me and a guest. My guest today, Tom Wozniak, over COO at Optismo. Welcome to the Nerdatorium, sir.
Hey, thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it.
I've heard so many great things about you from colleagues and friends in this industry, and nothing but just nice words for you, which is rare in this area. At least somebody's going to talk some crap about people, but I never heard it about you. And our paths have never crossed too
Yep.
much, but we've been in the PMA and we hung out, and I've always been so interested in your piece of the equation. So glad you could make it today.
No, really, my pleasure. It's always nice to meet somebody from the space who, again, we both been in it for a long time, but our paths have never crossed. That happens every once in a while. And it's always fun when you get somebody else. You've been in space for 10, 15 years. We've never met. That's crazy.
It's unique and interesting, but we're here now. So that's what matters. So let's start off with telling us what you do and who you serve out there, Tom.
Sure. As you said, I'm the COO over at Optismo Technologies, and we are really the industry leader in email suppression list management and email compliance. And what the heck does that mean? It really means that we empower our clients who are brands and networks who use the email channel within their affiliate or partner program for customer acquisition. And we allow them to scale that program in a way that is both brand safe and compliant with LogRank Can Spam, so that they are processing all the opt-outs of folks who receive emails, don't want to receive them anymore, and distributing those suppression files to all of their mailing partners, and doing it in a way that is hopefully extremely easy, largely automated, and can really become something that they can. I never hesitate to ever say something is set it and forget it, but it can be something where they get it active and running. And with the support of our team, it really just hums behind the scenes. And hopefully they don't have to be too concerned about it on a day-to-day basis.
Excellent. Okay. And that brings us to our topic of the day, and that is email marketing compliance and what it is in the affiliate realm. First off, is Tismo, you mentioned you guys are servicing brands and networks out there. Do you guys consider yourself a service or a software more?
Yeah, we're definitely a SaaS company. We're software as a service. So both, if you look at it that way. But yeah, our place is, we think of ourselves as Switzerland because we really work with everybody in the space, every affiliate network, every brand, vertical agnostic. And then on the other side, essentially any mailer that is mailing affiliate offers, there's a pretty good chance, in fact, I'd bet money on it that they use our system to access suppression files and
Okay, great. With organic publications being in the crapper right now, I would figure email is on an uptick. We're in 2025 right now. And have you seen that kind of trend going up with clientele being more invested in this channel?
Yeah, email it's my favorite channel. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I've been doing it for a really long time. I got my start in email back in the late 1990s, but email is really the kind of the grandfather of digital marketing. If you really want to look at it that way, it's one of the first channels that was used for true marketing purposes in the digital space, going all the way back to, I think, 1978 was arguably the first marketing email blast that was sent out. And there's no other digital channel that has that kind of history behind it. And so it's funny to me when you have a channel that is this established, and I'm gonna say old because that dates me too, but it's been around for a while, this experienced. New ones come along, and seemingly every year you'll hear when social came around or specific social channels, Snapchat or whatever. And you would have pundits write largely for clickbait, like, oh, that's it. Email's dead. Email going away, going to be replaced by fill in the blank social or whatever it is. And here we are, and email is not going away. If it's just growing, more emails are sent every year than the year before. And it's just so many billions of emails are sent every day. When you think about it, what would we do if we didn't? Your email address is how we log into everything. It's how we self-identify on every social platform, on every piece of software, every website. It's our identifier. And so the idea that it might go somewhere someday, who knows? But I don't think any of us in the space are too concerned about the near-term future of it, except that it's going to keep growing. And we hear things like the next generation doesn't really use email, except when they get older and get into the workforce and then have to start again signing up for things and having 401ks and bank accounts and all these things. They all have email addresses. As just a communications channel, it remains it's so massive and so ubiquitous that you almost can't escape it, really. And so from a marketing standpoint, it ebbs and flows like anything else where other channels become popular. For certain times, they become the hot thing and people want to focus more on influencer or social or whatever the case might be. But inevitably they come back to email and it doesn't go away. It's not always an easy channel. None of them really are. They all have their nuances and you have to get good at them. But I think companies and marketers that are willing to invest the time to really get good at email, doing it the right way, they can build really powerful, sustainable businesses for the long term.
And I would argue that it's underutilized in the affiliate space. In all reality, you mentioned bringing up content affiliates and influencers and focusing on them. But if you add in the concept that they have email lists as well that can work in conjunction with their outreach and their content, it's a winning combination so often with brands and affiliates in those brands. Tell me, go ahead and date yourself and tell us like your best email address. Do you have tom@gmail.com or something?
I don't, but so my personal email, it is an early Gmail. I didn't get just Tom at or even my first name, last name, but it's pretty close to that for my personal email address. And I've kept that one essentially since the beginning of Gmail. I still have an old Hotmail account with the same prefix that I'm pretty sure still functions. I just it's a long time, but I think it's still there.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's get into the content, the compliance in email marketing. And can you tell us why it's important to have compliance with your email lists?
Sure. And when we talk compliance, that's a broad category, obviously. So where I tend to be talking about is compliance with laws in the United States, because obviously every country, every region has their own set of both marketing laws, maybe email specific laws, data privacy laws that all kind of overlap into how companies can market to consumers via the email channel. So in the United States, that's the CAN-SPAM Act of 2003. And essentially, without getting too deep in the weeds, the biggest aspect of CAN-SPAM is, one, it does allow for unsolicited email that a lot of us would call spam, obviously, but it's that email you didn't sign up for, but a company can still reach out to you that way, as long as they follow certain key rules, the biggest of those being they got to give you a way to opt out, typically an opt-out link. And once you click that and say, hey, don't want to receive emails anymore, they have to honor that. And that means they can't market to you at that email address anymore. So the reasons why it's important to comply with it is it can be really expensive if you don't. FTC fines, or we're talking 50,000 plus per instance of an email violation. So if you mistakenly send to 100 email addresses that have opted out, that's the multiplier for the fine, potentially. Doesn't mean that will be the fine, but that's as high as it could possibly go. So there's a real penalty for making a mistake or for just not being compliant in the first place. And I guess the thing about that is it's just not that hard to be compliant with CAN-SPAM. And again, honor the opt-outs. It's systems like ours are obviously in place to largely automate this process and make the email channel easy to operate in a way that is brand safe and is compliant and still generating plenty of revenue and performance for everybody in the mix.
Excellent. And you mentioned making sure in those emails that you have an option to, get out of that opt out as you were. In our world, being an affiliate manager and doing outreach and trying to reach influencers and people, I'm doing cold outreach. Can you go through a little bit of the compliance of me doing that outreach with an opportunity to partner up with affiliates?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because I think one of the interesting things about the CAN-SPAM in particular, and just email marketing in general, is while it seems fairly simple in a lot of ways, and it's written for marketers to largely understand how to be compliant, there are still instances of what we would call marketing email, like cold outreach, like you just talked about, that there's a real question is how does this fit under CAN spam? And so what CAN spam does is it regulates commercial email, and largely without getting, too deep in the one legal weeds, because I'm not an attorney, I can speak to this in a fairly educated way. I never give legal advice because I always highly recommend, this is my little disclaimer, that I do highly recommend for companies that want to, for say the first time, get into the email channel and affiliate, consult with an attorney, just get legal advice to make sure that you've got your program set up properly, and then you should be good to go from there. But so when it comes to something like cold outreach, again, that is totally fine for you to be reaching out and sending emails to potential clients and prospects. And it really only falls under the auspices of CAN spam if you do it in, we'll call it a bulk send kind of way. What that means is still, there's no specific number that makes it a bulk email send. Is it 2? Is it 100? Is it 10,000? It becomes a little bit one of those where it's in the eye of the beholder. But if you're sending out one-off emails, for example, out of your Gmail account to potential prospects, you really don't fall under CAN spam. You do not have to necessarily include an opt-out link, for example. Now,
All right.
I think a best practice, even if you don't have a link, if you're sending this again from your personal Gmail or your work Gmail, is if somebody replies back and says, hey, I'm really not interested, I don't want to hear from you anymore, put them on a suppression file essentially and not email them, because that's just you're essentially at that point following CAN spam without being fully required to do. But it's a best practice, because once a prospect has said that he don't want to hear from you anymore, I think you should, from a best practices business standpoint, you generally honor that request, because you're concerned about your reputation in the space and all those things. So when it comes to cold email like that, again, there's that difference between one-to-one, and then we get into mass email. But if it is a mass email, then yeah, now we're at the point where we need to make sure that we are following all the rules that are laid out in the law. And the most obvious one of those being, you're going to have to provide an opt-out link, and you're going to have to honor that request. Now, the good thing is typically once you're into sending out larger batches of email like that, you're probably using an ESP or a CRM system like a HubSpot or MailChimp, whatever. They, by and large, will have this built in. So unless you'll set it up when you created your account, but there's going to be an opt-out link that they populate into every email they send on your behalf to your list. And when somebody clicks on it, it's just going to go into their system, and it's going to go into the suppression file that lives behind the scenes. You can obviously look and see who's unsubscribed, but the system itself will no longer allow you to email them through HubSpot or what have you. That's typically the way it'll work.
Excellent. I think that confirms what my strategy is. Essentially, I make two lists. One is our wish list. I've got 25 names over here that I absolutely will not give up on until they give me a hard no. And then I've got all the rest over here is this, I can shoot out a wide net. If I get a response, great. And with this list over here, the wish list, they're one-off emails. I'm doing this once a month, and it's very catered to their audience to try to get their attention. I don't use the opt-out in that one. But this one, absolutely. I'm shooting out 5 email sequences, and I have an option to opt out. Does that seem like a good strategy there?
Yeah, based on the way you're describing it, certainly sounds like, one, it's compliant, and sounds like a good business practice.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. And in terms of what it looks like in compliance area, like why should brands care about affiliates that are sending out these big emails?
No, great question. And that gets back again to the CAN Spam Act, which catered specifically to this situation where if you engage with partners to email on your behalf, how does that work? And what the law essentially says is that, hey, if we're the brand and you hire folks to email on your behalf and hire, I'm using that word, but certainly an affiliate relationship would fall under the qualifications of CAN Spam. They're an email partner, they're marketing on your behalf. However, you're compensating them isn't really relevant. You're responsible for what they send as the brand. So that means if your affiliate is not compliant, the FTC could go one after that affiliate for their actions. They could also go up the chain to say the network and then say the brand. And they, hey, we're going to hold everybody in this responsible for whatever behavior it is that they've deemed to be non-compliant that a mailer undertook. And again, not a guarantee that they're going to do that, but that is within their ability to do from a legal standpoint. So with that being the case, that right there is more than enough reason why any brand or network wants to do everything possible to make sure that all the affiliates that are emailing within their program are doing it compliantly. You don't want to deal with that. And then there's simply get beyond the legal aspects. There's just the business side of it. The brand, as a company, you've built a brand, and your brand image is your business. And for a lot of businesses, it's the most valuable thing they have. It's the true valuable asset. And the last thing you want is affiliate partners going off the rails and doing things that go against your brand image. So from that standpoint, you also want to just be monitoring and being aware of what those affiliates are sending. Are they sending approved creative? Again, are they following the rules? And are they using deceptive subject lines? There are all kinds of bad practices, obviously. We've all seen in emails in our inboxes or in marketing programs in general. And as consumers, consumers don't understand affiliate marketing. They just know that they got an email promoting brand X. And if something's wrong with that email, they get a bad experience from it. They don't blame the email marketer who they don't know. They blame the brand.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. And that brings up the point of what kind of assets do you need to be giving affiliates in your program in terms of email compliance? Is there something that is essential for brands to be using?
Yeah, typically a brand's going to have their own suppression file to start with, and that's going to be at a minimum, it's everybody who's ever opted out of their program.
Okay.
And that could be a kind of aggregation of opt-outs that have come from mailing partners. Maybe you've got 100 affiliates that have been mailing your program for years. Everybody who's opted out from all those affiliates, they're in your suppression file. Any of your own internal mailings that you've sent, you've obviously been collecting opt-outs. That's going to be natural. Well, anytime you send an email, you're going to get opt-outs. And so those people need to be in that list. And so that's the first core requirement. Then, and that needs to be then, you need to give your affiliates a way to either access that file or cleanse against it. And again, that's the kind of thing that, our system hopefully makes very simple. But then on top of that, they need to get some decisions to make as a brand if in large part an affiliate program is really designed to drive new sales. You're doing customer acquisition, you want net new. And so do you really want your affiliates emailing or marketing to your current customers, your subscribers? You probably don't. Now, maybe you do, but chances are you already have the relationship with those folks. So you can reach out to them and upsell, resell, whatever it is based on your business model. You don't need to pay an affiliate to do that for you. So many companies will upload their current customer file as a suppression file. So they keep their affiliates focused on prospecting. And so those are the two basics. But then again, if it's email, you're going to want to provide your affiliates with creative. Again, based on that, what is the offer? It's not just, hey, market my company for me. It's here's the deal for new customers. They get 50% off, or here's a click to sign up, whatever it is. And so you want to provide all that information. And generally, again, getting back to brand safety, you want to make sure that you're giving them creative that aligns with your brand image. So it's using the right logo. They're using language that you're comfortable with that matches your business. And providing all of that up front, it's going to make the affiliate's lives easier. It's going to make the process smoother from the start. And then you also, that you're prepared to have conversations potentially with marketers who say, hey, love the creative you sent over, but I'd really like to try a different subject line. And I'd like it to be this. Is that okay? And then it's up to the brand to say, yeah, variation of a subject line is totally fine. You're welcome to use that. But you want to set up that kind of feedback loop so that affiliates aren't just deciding, hey, I'm going to change this and I'm not going to get approval for it. Because again, that leads down that path of potentially folks doing something that might, again, not align with your brand. But I think as brands, it's wise to have that option to have affiliates be able to reach out and ask that question, because the affiliates, they're good marketers. They know what works, and they know what works within the guidelines of compliance. And so if a high performing affiliate says, hey, if you'd let me adapt the creative in this way, I think it's going to produce more. I think that's worth listening to as a brand.
Absolutely. And I think email swipes are very underutilized in the industry altogether. That is one of the great parts about Inflection that I really love is our platform has the ability to put all of your email swipes in the assets within the platform so that you can easily access and the affiliates can grab and go. And the affiliate links are already injected into the emails into their account. Makes it super easy. But it is a really good practice for brands to have multiple types of email swipes as well. We want to give those options to the affiliates on which ones to use, and they could be based on holidays coming up as well. Every holiday might have a little bit of a different tone or selling something different. So give those options to the affiliates in your asset file is a really good practice out there. There's one thing something else I want to talk about is the difference between UK and the United States and the email there. There's some confusion on whether or not I can email people in the UK versus the US in the same kind of way. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. In the EU specifically, but where the UK used to be, and obviously is no longer, a law was passed called GDPR, General Data Protection Act, regulation. All right. That was some years back, 2018 maybe. Anyway, that created kind of unified the marketing and data privacy rules and laws across all the countries in the EU. And one of the things that it just standardized, which was largely there to begin with, but made very clear was you cannot send marketing email to people without permission. And essentially, in a lot of ways, you can't send marketing messages. It goes well beyond email. It's that's phone, that's you name it. You've got to have someone who's opted in, and you got to have a record of that opt-in before you can start sending that message. That's completely different from the way it is in the United States, where, as I said, it's okay here, perfectly fine to send unsolicited email. Again, as long as you give people the way to opt out. Okay. The opt-out requirement is still there in the UK and the EU, but it's that additional step that you had to have permission first before you could make that initial reach. That's probably the biggest real difference. And obviously, it's probably the biggest real difference between email marketing in the United States and most countries is the opt-in requirement or not.
Oh, excellent. Excellent explanation of that. Thanks. It makes it so much more clear for us. All right, as we wind down here, let's talk about the future and what is coming up. So any trends you think are coming up in the affiliate world, especially in the email space?
Yeah, like I said, email is fascinating because having been around as long as it has, it's not that it hasn't changed. It's evolved dramatically with technology. We think those first emails were just text. And emails that are just text can still work today, but you can also be sending emails that are vastly more technologically advanced than that old original just text-based email. Now you've got dynamic content inside that email that adapts to when the user opens it. It could be something it reaches back to the database, looks at what they most recently purchased, populates the email almost in real time with, hey, here's the product you should buy now. Those kinds of things. There's all kinds of capabilities. I think looking forward, if you don't mention AI and how that's going to impact every marketing industry, I think you're missing obviously something that's just huge. And it's on the horizon, but it's already here.
Yeah.
AI in email from the standpoint of either optimizing the content on a virtually one-to-one basis and doing that in a way that is cost effective and not massively labor intensive that it conceivably has been in the past. That's doing analytics in real time as far as when should I be sending, when are people opening, when are they responding, and adding all of that information into a mailer sending kind of program and algorithm and making those decisions and hopefully making those without the mailer having to think about it too much. Because a lot of marketing, as we all know, is testing. And it's just, you're constantly running, here's how I've been doing it, here's my control. Okay, I'm going to test something new against that, or I'm going to test a bunch of new things in a multivariate situation. But that's all super labor and time intensive. And first you got to think up the things to test, and then you have to set them up, and you've got to track them and evaluate performance, move on from things that didn't work, adopt changes that improve performance. AI has the potential to automate essentially all of that, or a large portion of it. So you can be testing and optimizing and not taking up a lot of our brain power. and time and effort. It's all being done for us. I would get a little leery of some of that stuff. I don't want everything done for me. I'm not quite ready to hand the keys over to Skynet and the AI overlords, even if it's coming. I don't know. If it is, what are we going to do at this point? But I think all of that stuff is really exciting for email for sure, and just marketing in general.
The fact that you look like the Terminator spoils me a little bit, Tom. So, what with the AI usage, are you seeing that is that you, you mentioned it doing all those things? Is that something you guys are producing as a product, or are there other products out there that are doing this for companies?
Yeah, that's not something that we're doing today. Although I will say we as a company have adopted a lot of AI behind the scenes in just our own processes and how we operate as a business. Our CTO is a big fan and way down the rabbit hole early on what AI tools we could use internally to make ourselves more efficient and just run our business more effectively for our clients and more cost effectively, all of that. So we're big believers in it. But that said, we have a number of things in the pipeline in development that we are anxiously awaiting release. Should be later this year, could be as early as Affiliate Summit East. So stay tuned for maybe some fun promotional and marketing releases from Optismo ahead of that. But they'll be more focused on the mailer side of the whole mailing process, where previously we've been very focused on the brand, that side into space. Those are our clients, as I said, the brands and networks, and the mailers are all users of our system, but not our clients per se. They're people we have relationships with, but we've never had a product to sell or market to them. And we are excited to change that and hopefully bring something really valuable that mailers can use that will involve AI for sure, that will make their lives easier, more efficient, and help reduce friction in their processes. Fingers crossed, development always takes longer than anybody wants it to. I would love to have had something to market earlier this year, but we're taking the time to make sure we really have a great new software platform and service that we think will really bring some value to the space. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome, Tom. Thank you so much for your time today and educating the folks out there. And how do we get a hold of you, Tom?
Oh, I'm easy to reach. And you can find me at Optismo. It's just tom@optismo.com. On LinkedIn, it's funny you talk about the email address. I may not have tom.wozniak@gmail. I pretty much do have tom.wozniak at every social platform. So that's where you'll find me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or any of those things. Although I don't spend or X, I don't spend a lot of time on there. But yeah, you'll find me on the socials with just tom.wozniak generally.
Excellent. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in, and come back next time for my next guest. In the meantime, keep on recruiting, and we'll see